This is Tom Jacobs from tdjacobs.com. I'm an evolutionary astrologer and an energy worker, a channel, and also a psychic medium. And at tdjacobs.com, you'll find a wealth of materials to help you along your journey, including lots of channeled material to help you raise your level of consciousness, and also programmed crystals where energy is infused into them to break up patterns in your life and help you seed healthier new patterns of all kinds. I have crystals that cover all the different chakras and many different kinds of life issues. And also, at this point, 17 books. I just released another book, Living Myth 2, Sacred Psychology. And also, my other site, healingsuicide.com, helps you understand soul and its multi-life journey, what happens at and after death, and also how a soul understands suicide. So we can heal those painful feelings that help, that push us, that help us along the way or push us into suicidal thoughts. So those are my two sites. This video today is called What Can You Do with the Soul's Journey Soundbite Database. Now, some months ago, I released this database and I put out two videos. One was a general walkthrough where I put, I think it's silent or maybe there's music in the background, but I just walked you through doing simple searches and sorting the database. And then I also did a video introducing it with the rationale. So today, I'm just going to play around with some different things that have been coming up lately and show you how to actually use the database. When you sign up, become a member of the database, you can choose a five-day trial membership, or you can do a monthly membership that's recurring and you can cancel whenever, or also you can do a yearly membership, and of course the yearly one is priced, the best deal. So right now people are doing the 5-day trial version and then subscribing for a year because they want to see what it's like, and that's what this video is, to support you in getting more a sense of what you can do with it, how it works, what it looks like. One of the first things to mention to you, actually let me just put it up here and you can see it. Okay, so you should be able to see that now. So this is just the page that you get. This is what it looks like when you go to this. If you were to go to this address right now, you would be prompted to sign in, but I'm already signed in. So here's this. So here's a little search box up here, and I'm going to click on it. You can see kinds of searches that I've done so far that it's remembering. Pluto in 09, Pluto square Mars, South Node in 04, South Node conjunct Neptune, South Node conjunct Sun, that kind of thing. And this is a spreadsheet that is searchable. So I call it the database because it's a database, but it's not like Access or Oracle, different database engines that you might use. It's more like a spreadsheet, right? That's been turned into a searchable spreadsheet through this online app that I've found. So I used to actually do database management, and my original idea with this database was an online access, Microsoft Access database, because I'm familiar with working with those and populating them and customizing them. Just this side of being a programmer. I'm not a programmer, but I was able to do a lot of different things with Access databases. But it turns out you can't really do that. So at least not the way that I needed to. So this is the next best thing, and it's an online spreadsheet. So they're organized. Right now there are, I guess, 488 or 490 records, and then I have another 35 sound bites that I've done, which I'll populate probably by the end of 2018. I'll put in the database. And what it involves is anonymizing the soundbite, which means cutting out the name at the beginning and the end, cutting out the 3-minute intro on Pluto, and then uploading the chart, and then doing all this data entry that you see here on the on the screen. If you're not familiar with what a soundbite is, let me just tell you briefly. I should have started there. It's a 15 to 20-minute overview. That's what you'll find in the database, roughly 15 to 20 minutes. As I do them now, typically they're 20, 23 minutes, and it is a 4-step overview of your soul's multi-life journey. So I focus on Pluto as the most important thing that you have to do to make life feel meaningful, but also that represents a reservoir of unconscious memories about when it doesn't go well. So you have great memories of feeling strong and confident and worthy, worth surviving, right, with Pluto, but also fears, pain, anxiety, guilt, shame, regret, anger, rage, depressiveness, suicidal thoughts, all kinds of negative things too. When you go to do this thing that's most important to you, those negative things might come up. The unconscious memories might be stirred. So Pluto for me, in the first step of my analysis is that, and this is a unique take on Pluto. I studied for years with Stephen Forrest, who's an evolutionary astrologer, and I've consumed some of the material from Jeff Green, another evolutionary astrologer. Those are kind of the two dudes who are credited with developing it. And they didn't come up with a name. That was years ago, somebody else. But I've taken that several steps further by adding in channel perspectives on what soul is. My book, The Soul's Journey 1, Astrology, Reincarnation, and Karma with a Medium and Channel, goes into explaining that process and the basics of my four-step approach. But Pluto is the first step. Second step of the story is the south node of the moon, and that talks about what kinds of conditioning environments your soul plops you down into in many lifetimes. When you become a member of the database, you'll hear me say that over and over again, because I try to introduce all the steps as I go, assuming the listener does not know about my approach. And that does have to do with family environments that you start often in many lifetimes. Now, whether you're born into a family or raised by a family or both, because adoption and fostering and being separated from family, that's all part of the soul's journey and soul's plan. It's the South Node tells you how you've been conditioned over many lifetimes to see the world and what you think the world should be like. Step 3 is a South Node ruler by sign, and that tells me about your unique role and path in many lifetimes. So different aspects of identity, a deeper layer of identity than sun, moon, and rising, and also how you expect to be treated. So again, by house, sign, and aspect, and including retrograde status potentially. And that's sometimes very often it's different than the people and places you're born to. So the South Node and South Node ruler tell different layers of the story. South Node, where I come from, the people and places I come from, what I expect the world to be like. South Node ruler, who I think I am, how I expect to be treated, what opportunities I expect will be available to me, how I believe I should behave in the world. And then step 4 is the North Node, and that's what hasn't been shown to you or you haven't seen or have modeled for you, healthy versions. So you might have ideas of it, but they're probably based in, prejudices or preconceived ideas, because you never want to be like those people. Opposite how you're shown to see the world over and over again. So the fourth step, the North Node, is what we don't really want to do but need to learn and integrate and come into balance, so we don't overemphasize the South Node, which is our habit and typically our preference. So in those 4 steps, in 20 minutes, I can tell your life story and how this life is a chapter in that multi-life journey and what issues you're coming up against again and again and again, and what kinds of beliefs arise, what kinds of beliefs paired with emotional situations arise from those dynamics, which that's how I define karma, beliefs wrapped around emotions, and then how to change it in 20 minutes. That's what I do in a Soul's Journey Soundbite. In the description of this video, I'll put a link if you want to order your own. They're very powerful, and people write me and tell me they listen to theirs 20 times in a row because there's so much info in it, and I'm basically reading your chart as the Ascended Master I channel reads it, as your soul intended it. So it's not just a 20-minute reading, it's like it's an overview of your entire life. And a lot of people do go on to have readings with me because then questions come up. Oh, can you explain to me why this happened and why I'm like this? And so this dialogue develops as people start with a Soul's Journey Soundbite. Now, I took almost 500 of those and put them in this online searchable database. So that's kind of what's going on here. And the idea is you can learn how I understand these symbols and how I tell people these stories, but also how I tell people how to identify karmic beliefs and how to change them. And that is really the point of this work, identifying karma and helping people understand how to change it. Because you're a portion of divine consciousness. Your soul is a portion of divine consciousness that's connected to you. But your personality is navigating the world in terms of avoiding pain, avoiding guilt and mistakes, avoiding being a jerk, many of us. But your soul has a mission here to learn to process and learn through certain experiences. So anyway, this is like, you know, Soul's Journey Soundbites are to give you an idea of how to live in a more informed way given your path. You have certain triggers. You can't avoid those triggers, but you can grow through your reactions and your disempowered feelings and beliefs about them. So taking all that together in the database, you learn about how I do this work, not how I work with live clients, because it is very different. Because then I'm listening and I'm taking time and we're talking through things and I'm bringing through spirit guides and all that kind of stuff. But and I'm reading past lives because I do have that intuitive psychic thing going on. But in the Soul's Journey Soundbite, this database of almost at this point 500 on September 1st, 2018, you're going to learn how to do that 4-step story. So let's take a look at what you can see in the data sheet right here. It starts off with CN001. That's the inventory number over here on the left, and that is Cancer number 1. That means Pluto in Cancer. The database is organized by Pluto generation. So as you can see, I'm going to scroll down here. There are, I think, hold on if I can do it. Yeah, there are 7 Pluto in Cancer charts in this database of 488 or 490. And then we go into Capricorn. And it's basically Cancer through Capricorn, but of course, in this, the way it's sorted, it's going to show up alphabetically. So CN, of course, comes right before CP. CN starts in the 19 teens, and Capricorn starts in early 2008. So of course, those are the two ends of, I don't have any Pluto and Gemini clients because Pluto left Gemini in the teens. So anyway, Cancer through Capricorn is what we're dealing with. So there are charts in here, people, you know, in their 70s and 80s, as well as babies who were born in July. Like there's one in here of a baby who was born in July of 2018. So basically anybody who's alive on Earth right now, you know, that chart, that time period is represented in the database. So like I said, they're organized by Pluto generation. The columns here, I guess maybe they don't all, oh yeah, I have to scroll up and you'll see the column headers. There we go. So chart or no chart just means, is there a chart included? I believe 30 of them don't. I had a data loss when I lost a machine a few years ago, and 30 of the charts were lost, but I still had the audio, the MP3s. And then the birth month, 09 for September, 06 for June. So they're numbered that way, so you can look it up that way. Birthday is like the day of the month, the year, of course, and all of these are searchable throughout the whole database. Gender, male or female. Now, if there's no birth time, you won't see the house columns with data. So like Pluto on the 9th, we know that because there's a birth time, right? In some of these, there's no birth time, so we just run with signs and aspects. Okay, Pluto in house 09 here, and this is the convention. Pluto in 09, 04, 02, 11, 10. There's always a 0 before the single digit, and all of these instructions are in the instruction sheet, the PDF that's on my Learn Astrology page. It's linked from there. Pluto direct or retro, one or the other, right? And then Pluto aspects, always spelled out, Pluto square moon, Pluto square Eros, Pluto square BML. That's the convention. So like when you see up here, Pluto square Mars, it's never Mars square Pluto. We always start with Pluto. That's the convention. Then South Node house, again, same with the Pluto house convention 08, 11, 02. South Node sign, the sign is pretty straightforward. And then South Node aspects, again, always starting with the South Node SN first. And I guess you can see it up here, South Node conjunct Neptune. That's the convention. Never Neptune conjunct or Neptune on the South Node. And then, and typically they're organized, this doesn't really matter, but typically they're organized by conjunction and then square and then opposite, you know, and then opposite. Now in this, the way that I do the readings, a conjunction to the North Node would only be treated in step 4, the North Node story. But in the database, the conjunction will be treated here because we don't have a separate column here for the North Node. It's like this covers the first 3 steps, and then and when I'm doing the verbal story and the soundbite, then I added the 4th step. This is what you need to learn. But the way the database is set up, that would be kind of a redundant thing. Because I'm saying South Node's in the 8th house or South Node's in Gemini, you know the North Node's in Sagittarius in the 2nd. Like we can know that, so that it's not redundant. South Node ruler house, and that's a South Node ruler by sign. So South Node here is in Gemini. So the ruler is Mercury in this chart. That's in Libra. I use traditional rulers in these sound bites when I do the 4-step story. It's the only traditional thing I do. So if the South Node's Scorpio, I look for Mars. If it's Pisces, I look for Jupiter. And if it's Aquarius, I look for Saturn. So anyway, the South Node ruler sign is there. And then South Node ruler retro or direct. And that is this column. And then, of course, South Node ruler aspects. What aspects are wrapped up with my identity in many lifetimes? Then the last 2 columns, chart link and MP3 link. Now, like I said, some of them do not have a chart. There are about 30 records where data were lost. But I went through and listened to all of those MP3s I listened to all 30 of those to note down all these aspects since I couldn't do it from the chart. But anyway, when you click on a chart, a new tab opens and there's the chart. And of course you can make it bigger. Yeah, so this is how you can see it's anonymized up here. I blocked out the name and put CN001. So you have the birth data here, just not the name. And also the name is taken out in the recordings. I always say, Fred, your Pluto's in the 9th house, whatever. And then at the end, I also use their name too, because I try to personalize it. But then I go through the MP3s and take the name out to anonymize it. So that's what happens when you click on the chart link. Now, when you go back, anytime you click on either of those columns, you get the whole record in question. So now if I go back, I'll see that whole thing again. But if I click on the chart, of course, it'll open again. When I go back to the database, it's that record in this view. That's just how it works. You just have to go back. Like I chose the browser's back arrow, but you can also choose this little thing that says go back anyway. It's just spelled out in a different way where you have all of that you know, in the rows instead of in columns. So, oops, let me say go back. Why isn't it going back? Oh, it's waiting. Okay, so let's, I don't think you're gonna be able to hear this at all when I do this, but when I click on this, it'll start playing. So you can see the little thing. This is on SoundCloud. I've taken, I can hear it in my headphones. I don't think you can hear it. Anyway. Okay, so anyway, I put all of these on SoundCloud and locked them, and you can't find them through searching, but you can, but they're all linked through the database, and you can listen to the whole thing. This one is 20 minutes, so I'd cut off the intro, probably 3 minutes of stuff on Pluto, and because I just do a standardized intro for all the sound bites. And yeah, and so you can listen to it. So let me go back and cancel that. So that is kind of the basic thing. I want to show you, because there's this conversation that's been coming up in my astrology classes lately, my Evolutionary Astrology Advanced 2 classes. What I did was I enlisted volunteers to come in and get a reading from me while my advanced students listened and took notes after they'd studied the chart for a week. So they study the chart, come to class, there's the client, and the students are on mute taking notes, and the client volunteer guinea pig person receives about a 45-minute reading from me, and then the students can ask the client questions. How did this show up in your life? Or what was that like when you were a kid? Or Tom, why did you talk to the person like this? Or why did you use this avenue of interpretation instead of that one? So we did that, and out of 8 women who were volunteers, I just put a call out on Facebook, and it happened to be 8 women who responded. I want to say 6, maybe 5, but 5 or 6 had Pluto square Mars natally. So after 3 of these, we kind of note, and then the last person had Pluto opposite Mars natally. So we think there's 6 or 7 people have these like challenging Pluto Mars aspects. And so it just brought up this conversation in class about, well, what should we assume when we see that? Because now there's a pattern, what's really going on here? And so we got into this thing about how to understand Mars square Pluto. So if you're a member of the Soul's Journey Soundbite database, what you can do is search for that. Let's just go back up here to the top. Where's my little search thing? Oh, there it is. Okay. So clicking on that and say Pluto square Mars. And then I'm going to hit search, or you hit the little spyglass, or you can also hit, or magnifying glass. You can also hit enter, and then of course it's working. That's what it looks like. Okay. Now all of these charts that show up have Mars square Pluto natally within 8 degrees of the orb. So let me just see how many there are. Yeah, so there are 5 pages. I think it's up to 20 per page, so it's somewhere between 80 and 100. That's actually quite a lot, actually. Think about that. Is it really? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 per page. So it's between 40 and 50. Sorry, wow. Between 41 and 50. Okay, so yeah, I thought that was a little excessive. So then they're organized again by inventory number first, like they're showing up alphabetically. There's 1 with Pluto in Capricorn, CP001. And then there are several with Pluto in Leo, LE, 11, 27, 32, 40, 46, 58, 59, 60, etc. And you can go through the generations, you can scroll through there, but then you can also click any of these, that's not this inventory number, click any of these other things to sort them. So let's say you want to know Pluto square Mars, where Pluto's in the first house. So this subset here that I just searched for, these 41 to 50 charts, have Pluto square Mars. So if I sort by Pluto house, then I'm going to get, that's going to show up wherever Pluto's in the first. Yeah, so this is showing up where there's no data, there's no chart, so, or there's no birth time. So these couple, but then down here, Pluto in the first. So then you can sort through it and say, oh, okay, well, these are women with Pluto in the first. Oh yeah, these 3 women all have Pluto in Leo. Yeah, how does, whether that Mars is square from Aquarius or Taurus, let me learn what that means when Pluto's in Leo, square Mars in this other fixed sign. So that's one thing you can do. And then you can scrolling down. Then you do have like Pluto in Virgo, Pluto in the first, square Mars, whether it's in, my gosh, I'm blanking. What squares Virgo? Not Pisces, the other 2, Gemini, Sagittarius, either way. And some of them could be out of sign. It could be a Capricorn square the Pluto thing, if Pluto's late and Mars is early. But anyway, then you can listen to that MP3, you can view that chart and listen to that MP3 and get a sense of this. In this case, Mars is in the middle of Virgo, square Pluto, in Gemini in the 10th house, square Pluto in the first. And there's a power struggle here because Pluto in the first says the mission is to be independent and confident and steer the ship of your own life. Square Mars in the 10th, I'm going to encounter conflict in the world or through people at work or people who are defending their own egos in some way. Maybe this Pluto person, this chart holder maybe, has shows up with a lot of confidence and strength and challenges someone else's sense of authority, Mars in the 10th. Maybe that person feels he or she needs to defend against this chart holder. So in many lifetimes, this person will experience that kind of conflict. So anyway, in the soundbite, I explain this. Okay, so let's go back and just pick another random example here. Okay, so I want to scroll down to like Scorpio generation or Sagittarius generation to give you an idea of a younger person. Let me just advance through here. It's waiting. Okay. Virgo, Sagittarius. Okay, let's look at this. Somebody born in 1996, Sagittarius number 2. This is a female with Pluto in the 2nd house. So let's look at the chart. And you see Pluto is in the 2nd house in early Sagittarius, and it's square Mars in early Virgo in the 10th house. So then, again, Mars in the 10th, maybe people who have this invested sense of their own authority. In this case, maybe they're being nitpicky. Maybe they want control over what's happening. And this Pluto in the 2nd house, this person must live according to her own value system. And then maybe there are critical bosses who get in the way or who say you can't do it that way. Like this person with Pluto and Sagittarius will be very intuitive and will operate on gut hunches and gut instinct. And you have somebody nitpicking what you're doing and saying, why did you do it that way? And the person says, because it felt like the right thing to do. And the boss says, not going to cut it. So in that case, there can be this conflict from different lifetimes. I want to find another one. But the point is, with Mars, I wanted to use this video as an example of Mars square Pluto to help you kind of think about that aspect in a new way as well, while thinking about how to use the database to learn about it. But Pluto is the most important thing that you need to do to make life feel meaningful. And squares to Pluto say, I will manifest or I will draw to me conflict, pressure, friction, criticism from Mars people. And of course, sign and house and the other aspects matter too. But that basic idea, I need to learn about Mars energy by being pressured by Mars people. So in a chart, all these dynamics are within the person's psyche. This always comes up in basics classes when I'm teaching this, and people say, well, wait a minute. This whole chart's the person's psyche. And I'm like, yes, of course, you're right. And when something has hurt you, you don't want to be that kind of person. So with Pluto square Mars, you don't want to be the kind of person who hurt you. So you might not understand how to be healthily assertive. You might find yourself being defensive or guarded and shut down or overly aggressive to kind of preemptively defend. Or you might feel like a victim because you've been abused. You might feel like you might have developed a timid thing because you don't want to have to fight. Or maybe you're on guard all the time, on edge with fire because you felt like you have to fight. So all these beliefs about this. And the reason I do the work I do is to help people understand the beliefs and change it. So people with Pluto square Mars need to figure out how to own the power that they already have to say yes, please when they like something and no thank you when they don't like something. And that's the core of Mars square Pluto or any Mars Pluto natal aspects, the hard aspects. When I do this work, I cover, and in the database are covered, conjunction, square, opposition, and sometimes quincunx, the 150 degree aspect. A minor aspect, but it tells a lot of stories when it is involved in this karmic story. It answers a lot of important questions. So that is the idea. So this chart holder must live according to her own value system, second house Pluto. She must develop her own values and live that life, not compromise, not use her time and energy and money in ways that leak energy or that make her feel small or demeaned, but have self-respect to develop that confidence. That's the second house Pluto. I have to prove to myself that I can do something, so I have to develop tools and skills. I have to put the right price on them to earn a living, and then transform my relationship with material objects and money in order to have confidence and live according to my own values. When you're aligned with your own values with Pluto in the second house and you process fears of starvation or losing money or bankruptcy or whatever, you find that money just comes and goes when it needs to. So this person has to develop faith in herself and live according to her own value system. And that conflict with the Mars people, when she really needs to learn to own Mars in a healthy way, can get in the way. So that's one other example. I want to give you one other example, hopefully Mars from the other side. Well, I'll look at the different houses and try to find a Pluto. Actually, let me do this. I'm going to do birth year, and first it will sort ascending, so it'll go from the earliest birth year of this data set. And then I'm going to click it one more time to sort it descending, so the most recent birth is covered. And here we have 2013, Capricorn number 1. Did I already look at this one? Pluto's in the 9th house. Yeah, so let's look at this one. Okay, so Pluto's in the 9th house in Capricorn. And so this person, in order to make life feel meaningful, needs to develop a belief system and a larger framework through which to understand and interpret the world. And this person needs to seek the truth, needs to travel far or study philosophy, whatever. But this is about disempowerment and empowerment through belief, including religion, but not only religion. Ideology of any kind, including politics, that kind of thing. The worldview needs to be strengthened. In Capricorn, this person needs to be authoritative about this and methodical and trim the fat and be practical. So this is not a new agey airy-fairy type person who is going to tolerate being led through a field of baloney. Oh, just fake it till you make it. That's not this person. That's not going to happen. This person is going to be critical in a Capricornian way of belief systems. Okay, now Pluto then is square Mars, which is over here. It's about 7 degrees, a little more than 7 degrees. And again, I would count up to 8 degrees. And that Mars is in the 12th in Aries, and that's actually conjunct Uranus. So the pressure and the friction that this person may receive in that process of developing a belief system and becoming a mature and disciplined and authoritative and developing that worldview, that framework through which to interpret the world, that person will experience tension and conflict with both situations and people who embody Mars-Uranus energy in Aries in the 12th house. Now, when something squares Pluto from the 12th, sometimes it's a massive event in the collective, a massive weather event, because the 12th house is our connection to the collective, it's our connection to the globe, to Gaia herself. It's also things that are huge. So it can be massive social change, but it can also be like a weather event. And Mars is action and violence, whether it's people or situations. It could be a military thing or bullies or something like that. Uranus is things that change. So this is sudden change that is traumatic and maybe violent. Now that may destroy this person's ability to have a framework of what's true. So this person might be disempowered in some lifetimes through a belief in a protecting god or goddess or series of gods or goddesses, and trauma in terms of like this tidal wave, that earthquake, whatever, this sudden change may destroy the belief system, may pressure it, may knock it off course. So, I believe we're safe. Well, then this volcano erupts. Obviously we're not safe. The faith I put in God, obviously that was baloney. So that kind of traumatic change can push against the person's belief system. That person's ability to feel strong and confident in his or her religious belief or ideological orientation. So that's the idea. Now, all that said, this person, this male, was born in March of 2013. So when I did this soundbite, let's see when this chart was made. May of 2013, that's when I did the soundbite. So I did this when this kid was about 6 weeks old. Did it for the parents. Actually, I remember this parent actually just bought a soundbite that when I mentioned earlier, there's one that was born in July of 2018. That's her friend's kid. She bought the soundbite for the friend. She gave it as a gift, and it was their favorite gift of all the gifts they got when the kid was born, because it's a whole life overview. But anyway, when I'm telling the story, I know a parent is listening. It's not for the person as an adult. So I frame it also when you see with these kid sound bites, they're framed, some of them, in terms of how you're going to see some of this behavior come out when the kid's very small and starting to play with other kids, and to try to frame it and contextualize it to understand better how to understand how these karmic things influence, like how they come out before we're able to talk about it. So that's one of my favorite things to do, is to do sound bites and readings for parents of little kids, for the little kids, because it helps give you a roadmap of what's going on. So yeah, in this case, Pluto in the house of belief squared by Mars in the house of something is bigger than I can handle. Now in this case, just to round this out, this can also be a person who's a 12th house person. Maybe the person, we could say spiritual, mystical. We can also say addicted or checked out. who has anger problems, who is traumatized. That person can square this person's Pluto as well. So it can be a person or an event, a situation, or in the 12th house, the idea of massive global change. Okay. So that is the idea. And like I said, they're between 41 and 50 with Mars squared Pluto. Similarly, with everything else. If you search for Pluto in the second, let's just do that, just randomly. Pluto in 02. So we scroll down here, we see 4 pages, so between 31 and 40. So you can hear all that many different takes on what it means to have Pluto in the second. What is this self-esteem journey about? Living according to my own values. What does that really mean? And of course, you can say, I want to see all the ones. Let's here search inventory number backwards. So we get Virgo first. So I can see all the Pluto in house 2, Pluto in the second house, who have Pluto in Virgo. Whoops, that's, yeah, first time it does it alphabetically from the front. Second click, we'll get it alphabetically from the back or descending. Okay, so Virgo 127, 125, 23, 112, 99, 89, etc. So you have all those options of finding out how that works. So that I'm really proud of the database. I love this. I didn't ever think I would use my database skills from years ago when I transitioned to being a channel, a medium, astrologer, and a healer. But you know, I've had a great time putting this together and teaching people how to use it. And again, you can subscribe from the Learn Astrology page on tdjacobs.com. It's the first section at the top of that page. You can subscribe for a five-day trial, or monthly, or for a yearly fee. And I do, for the yearly fee, my monthly subscribers to my monthly forecasting service do get a break on that. So anyway, you can check that out and check out the other videos too. And thanks for your time and energy. And be in touch if I can be of service in any way. And you know, get your own soul's journey soundbite too. Bye-bye.